Alright, today's lesson I'm going to be talking about finding slope from a graph. But before we get to the actual number for slope, let's review some of the basic ideas of what slope looks like. For example, if I have a line that goes in the upward direction from left to right, that line is said to have a positive slope. If you remember the video of Slope Dude, he said puff, puff, positive as he worked his way up the hill. So that was the first type of line of slope that we talked about. The second kind of slope we discussed was one that went downhill from left to right. And if you're going downhill from left to right, that slope is going to always be a negative number. Remember, Slope Dude said nice, negative, as he enjoyed his way down the hill when he was skiing. Of course, that would be the most fun part. Then we had the two weird kind of slopes. First off, the horizontal line, the flat line from left to right, which we said had zero slope. We could write the word zero, or you could physically write the number zero as you find that slope. And Slope Dude said this is zero fun, as he had to ski across that flat part, which is definitely not easy to do if you've ever done cross-country skiing. And then finally, the last type of slope was the straight up and down vertical line slope, which we said was called undefined. The reason it's undefined is because you cannot go from left to right. And if you actually counted out the slope, you'd get a zero on the bottom of your fraction, and that's what makes things undefined. So, you remember, Slope Dude yelled that curse word, undefined. One of my favorite parts of that video, of course. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at how slope is actually calculated from this graph here. What we are looking for is we are looking to find the change in y and divide it by the change in x. So we had some other terms that we used other than change in y. What we used was rise and run. Rise standing for how much the graph changed in an upward or downward direction, hence the change in the y-axis number. That would be this downward count here. And then the run, the side to side, that is how much things have changed along the x-axis. So in this particular problem, my graph, since it's going down from left to right, is a nice negative. And then the numbers that I'm going to use, the top number in my fraction, the rise number, means I counted two spaces in the up or down direction. And then my run number was the number of spaces I counted side to side, and that would be 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces side to side. So my run would be 4. And then, of course, I always reduce all fractions, which you can do on the calculator by hitting the Math Enter button after typing that fraction, or that you can do by hand by dividing both of those numbers by 2 to end up with a final answer of -1/2 for the slope of this particular line. So, again, double-check things like the downward hill of the graph makes it negative, not positive, so you didn't have to worry about which direction you are counting, down, up, left, or right. You knew that from the start. Alright, so let's take a look at one more. This one is going from left to right in the upward direction, so that we know this will have a positive slope. But we don't know those numbers, so once again we're going to have to count out the rise over run. So if I am counting out my rise over run between these 2 points, you might be asking yourself, does it matter which point I started from? And no, it does not. If I use this green one, it means I rise was 3, and my run, 1, 2, 3, 4, was 4, and it's positive. If I had counted the other direction, following this red path, I would still get the same thing. I already know that my answer is positive. My rise on the side here would still be 3. My run, going along the bottom, would still be 4. I would get the same answer. I knew it was positive from the start because the graph was going uphill from left to right. So my answer would be 3/4, which is already reduced. So that is what you're going to be working on today. Go ahead and start working on your worksheet now.